Hi, welcome to my channel. In this week's painting tip of the week, I want to talk about your game plan when it comes to the painting process. Now, the reason why this is so important is because it makes the painting process so much more successful and enjoyable when you have clear objectives that you want to achieve. Now, the first objective is to prepare the surface that you are going to work on. I like to work on a tinted base coat for the next reasons. First, to seal my canvas so that the paint can flow on more readily, because sometimes canvases can be very thirsty and it can suck in the oil. So it seals my canvas. And then secondly, to eliminate the intimidation of the stark contrast that the white color of the canvas creates. Because sometimes when you put a color on the white canvas, that whiteness can intimidate you to change your color matching, because now the color looks too dark. And so you start changing the color matching, and then at the end of the day, your picture looks flat. Now, you can use either oils like burnt sienna mixed with liquid so that the paint can dry quicker, or I would like to use an acrylic base coat, but just make sure that the paint that you use has stretch capabilities in order to adapt to the climate changes, because that will make your canvas expand or shrink over time. Now we come to the sketch. Make sure your proportions are correct. You don't want to fix problems at a later stage. That will only create more work and more frustration. If you want to double check that you stay on track, then consider using a proportion tool. Now, if you don't know how a proportion tool works, then I have done a video explaining the use of this proportion tool that you can go and check it out. Now, remember that your goal is to capture your subject faithfully. So you don't want to draw in lines that is not given by a reference, and you don't want to accentuate lines that are meant to be soft. Like, for instance, if you're doing a portrait and you are drawing the bottom lip, don't put so much emphasis on the bottom lip, these parts of the bottom lip, because usually they are so soft, and I see people, when they draw these lines, they draw them in very harshly, and that is not the information that is communicated by your reference. In short, draw what you see, not what you think your subject should look like. Now, before I start painting, I set up my palette by mixing the colors that I'm going to use, the colors that's given by my reference, from dark to lighter tonal values, and I arrange them in that specific order on my palette, and I try to mix enough of these colors so that I don't mix one color 50 times. Now, this will not only save you a lot of time, but it will give you clarity when it comes to color placement, putting the right color on the right place. Now I want to talk about the different painting stages. The first painting stage is called the underpainting. And the underpainting is like the foundation of a building. When the foundation is finished, you're not going to ask people what they think of your house, okay? The goal of the underpainting is to create something strong that you can build on that will support the structure. So here are some objectives for your underpainting. Now, first of all, you want to obviously cover the canvas with paint, unless of course you are doing something contemporary or modern and you want every part of the painting process to form part of the final impression. Otherwise, you don't want any construction lines to shine through the first paint layer. Now, secondly, I'm not so much concerned at this stage about the perfect hue, the perfect blue, or the perfect red, or the perfect purple. I am much more concerned with the perfect tonal value, the perfect dark, middle or lighter tonal values. As the saying goes, contrast is king. And I see that people are afraid of the darker and the lighter tonal values, and they like to hang out in the middle. But they sacrifice beauty and they sacrifice a strong impression. Thirdly, I try to focus on bigger color planes, which will support finer detail, and on soft transitions instead of focusing on sharp detail. Putting detail in too early will only complicate things and will slow down the painting process. Now, if you're finished with your underpainting and you have reached all your objectives, you want to pay attention to 3 things when you come to the second or the final painting. The first thing that you want to pay attention to is color, then contrast and definition. Now, think about it. Now that the tonal values, the dark, the middle and the lighter values are in place, you want to focus on the perfect hue. Now you want to pay attention to the perfect red or that blue or that purple color. Or you just want to make the colors a bit brighter in your painting. Say for instance, you want to apply a glaze to dull surfaces to brighten up those surfaces. Like I've said earlier, contrast is king. You want to see that you accentuate the darker tonal values maybe and the highlights in order to give the painting a little bit more contrast, which will complement the forms of your subject. And then lastly, pay attention to the definition. And by definition, I mean the finer detail that you see on your reference and your edges of your subject. Now, if you have mowed the lawn in your life, you will know what I'm talking about. If you haven't paid attention to the edges, the job just doesn't look finished. Smoothing out harsh edges or accentuating a fuzzy edge or line will give your painting that finesse it needs and will make it look completed. Thanks for watching and see you next week for the next painting tip of the week.